Desana on the 7th of February 1976. While listening to a Desana, please keep the citta within yourself. Do not send it out to the various kinds of aramana, thoughts and imaginings. Don't cherish those aramana you imagined and thought about in the past. This is of no benefit. At this time, you should be trying to fill the heart with Dhamma. This heart has been parched for a long time without any Dhamma, similar to a dried out forest without any water or dampness. Such a place can easily ignite, totally scorching and consuming all the trees due to this lack of moisture. There are seldom any forest fires in the rainy season, but in the dry season, many places tend to catch alight. Once a place is really dehydrated, then it easily ignites, even inside a monastery when it is very dry. Just like Bantai Forest Monastery, which has caught on fire several times, and this is due to dryness. When the heart becomes dried up without Dhamma to cool and sustain it, then the fire of the kilesa, tanha, asava, can rapidly take hold. Anything coming into contact with it will be scorched without exception. Wherever there is fire, there is damage. So when the kilesa, tanha, asava, blaze within the heart, how could the heart not be harmed? Regardless of its value, it can't escape being tarnished, and in the end becoming totally worthless. Such is the way of the heart that has been constantly scorched and consumed by fire. Any possessions that are engulfed by fire will be damaged, the extent of which depends on the intensity of the fire, except when they are stored in a safe place, such as a security vault, as used by all banks to protect their valuables. But do we have any safety vault within our hearts? Or are we always exposing ourselves to risks, day and night, and in all postures? Are we always leaving ourselves vulnerable, completely despoiled and ravaged? Don't we have any concern for our invaluable heart? Such is the way of thinking, so we can teach ourselves. The heart cannot find any happiness, because the fire of the kilesa constantly consumes it. This fire is the blaze of raga, dosa, moha, greed, hatred, and delusion, as found in the fire sermon, Aditta Pariyaya Sutta. There should be no doubt or uncertainty about this, for this has always been true. If we would just take up the various aspects of the Dhamma given there and bring them within, and then by using reason compare them following the Dhamma principles also presented there, we would then be able to find a way of steering clear of this fire. We would then be able, from time to time, to find some peace and happiness without constantly being burnt by this conflagration. This effort in developing yourselves that you have all put forward at this time is the seeking a place for your assets, which are merits, punya. You are searching for a security vault, building it so as to make yourself secure and protected from those three great masses of fire. Then they can entirely consume you. It's hard and difficult to quench the external fire, and if it has really taken hold, then even water cannot contain it. But to extinguish the internal fire, we must consistently develop and accumulate virtue. For example, metta bhavana, cultivation of loving kindness. This is for the purpose of calming and greatly strengthening the heart, making it capable of effectively subduing those harmful and injurious things, namely the fires discussed above. Speaking of fire, it must always be hot. Even flying sparks, when falling on the body, are hot and painful. How much more so if we allow the fire to constantly burn us, both day and night? What will we have left? There can definitely be nothing left within the body and heart. What remains is mere awareness, without any worth or value, since it has been totally given over to the all-consuming kilesa. What awareness there is only the awareness of dukkha, and not of happiness. It is not the awareness of wisdom. This awareness is under the dominance of dukkha, for it allows dukkha to constantly trample it under, making the heart appear quite useless. The consistent development of citta bhavana, mind development, by way of strenuous and diligent effort, is the way to extinguish the fire within the heart, gradually imparting peace and happiness. The Lord Buddha taught only those things which are within the capability of beings to achieve, but the things beyond their ability he did not teach. All the Dhamma taught by the Lord Buddha are within the reach of the Buddhist followers. The Lord did not teach blindly. We practitioners must therefore consider truth and Dhamma as of paramount importance and take it deeply to heart, just as surely as we shun and abhor all forms of dukkha. Whether this dukkha arises within our body or heart, all the world joins in rejecting it. What then is the remedy for this undesirable thing, if not Dhamma? When all this has been comprehended with reason, then whether the practice of Dhamma is easy or difficult is entirely unimportant, because we are committed to our practice by our conviction, satisfaction, and by reason. We can all do it according to our capacity. Laziness. Who isn't lazy when we are under the power of the kilesa? This laziness, which loathes doing anything good or beneficial, is with each one of us. Laziness always takes the lead, but it certainly is not the Dhamma that will deliver us from dukkha. It is just that factor that makes us complacent and careless, which will gradually drag us down, following the power of the sly and deceitful kilesa. The Lord Buddha had also experienced this, but what enabled him to transcend those things which had previously oppressed the heart? At the time when we become weak and lazy, we should reflect and compare the Lord's experience with our own, and take up his way as our ideal and our encouragement. Then there will be a way for us to combat and cope without always having to yield and submit. Even though it is difficult, we can do it. If we truly see dukkha as suffering, then we must see the overcoming of dukkha as important. Otherwise, the thing that we detest and dread will always confront us. Without corrective thought and actions, it's just not possible to find a way of escape or avoidance. Whatever methods there are, whether they are difficult or easy, we must use them, because they are the way of uprooting all the undesirable things out of the heart. We are all in the same position regarding birth and death, as with our experience of dukkha, in all the various forms of existences, right up to the present. We are all one and the same. No one is second to another, since we all take birth and suffer dukkha. We have all experienced this through large and small forms of existence, through greater and lesser experience of dukkha. We have all suffered dukkha. There can be no competition amongst us concerning the number of lives we have gone through, since all alike have had so many. Similarly, with dukkha, which is so plentiful in our heart and body, we cannot take this as the basis for our rivalry, because the Lord has said in this regard that we are all one and the same. Such is the way we score our high marks. But here, we should rather be foremost, by way of the citta and Dhamma. We have been topped with the masses of dukkha and torment, and in this respect, no one can be better off than another, since we all have them equally and similarly. With the kilesa as the guide, usher, and the leader, we will always be led to more and more dukkha. If we persist and insist on trusting the kilesa, we will experience dukkha born under the influence of the kilesa. If we don't resist, we will never see the end, wherein we are delivered from this mass of dukkha. Resistance is the way of Dhamma. This is a resistance using reason. The reason is drawn from seeing the perils of certain things, and from knowing those things that are productive of dukkha, which must then be corrected by the various countering methods. We must utilize the means which are effective in overcoming the kilesa and mass of dukkha. Whether they are difficult or easy is not important. This is like a craftsman and his use of tools, some of which will be easy to use, and others more difficult. He will have to make use of them as the work requires, and will have to bear with the strenuous tasks, as well as the lighter ones, as he gradually continues until finally accomplishing the required task. The tool for cultivation, for the overcoming of the kilesa, tanha, asava, and for developing in the heart a firm basis and a truly genuine wholeness and integrity, is Dhamma. Dhamma tools are of many kinds and must be used according to different circumstances. Sometimes, when the heart is not being so forcefully enticed, disturbed, and upset by the kilesa, the ways of resistance and suppression need not to be so vigorous. Similarly with the utilization of the satipanya tool and the strength of our exertion. For instance, it's not so important whether we sit or walk or investigate for a long time or not, because the task at hand is not yet significant. But when the citta is so vehemently provoked and harassed by the kilesa that we can unburden ourselves of it, then we cannot remain idle and indifferent. Now we must exert ourselves to the utmost, even putting our own lives at stake, neither surrendering nor retreating, except if we should die, when it would be beyond our ability to continue. We must mobilize and apply all of our satipanya in this situation, no matter how strenuous and arduous it might be. We must resort to our exertion, regardless of how severe the resulting dukkha might be. The dukkha brought about by our exertion is of little consequence, but the kilesa-contrived dukkha is rather strange and unaccountable, and once we are sunk in it, there is no telling when we can emerge. On the other hand, we are aware of both the dukkha from our exertion and that of our body. For instance, we are aware of it when we sit or walk for a long time. We are also aware of how difficult it is to devise the different means of coping with the various kinds of kilesa. But the happiness and marvel, the transcendent experience, and the heart's attainment to wisdom and discernment that result from hardship and strenuous effort are precisely what we are aspiring and yearning for. Once the means and ends always correspond, it doesn't matter how difficult it might be. It is then possible for us to struggle on. But should there only be difficulty and hardship, without the rewarding happiness and ease, then no one in this world would be able to make it. This does not apply only to ordinary people, for it would also be impossible for the Lord Buddha to become enlightened. Neither would there appear in the world any arahant savaka, to whom we devote ourselves with the vows of Buddhang, Dhammang, Sanghang, Saranang, Gacchami. I take refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Indeed, there must be a time and opportunity when we can tackle it. For us, our persistent effort is the important factor, and as followers of Dhamma, we should not disregard reason. As soon as our means weaken, the kilesa will grow more piercing and incisive. If our effort slackens, the kilesa will surge and swell. But if our exertion is intense, and our sati panya sharp and keen, then the kilesa will gradually fade away. This is because the kilesa is only afraid of Dhamma, and nothing else in this world. Only Dhamma can contain and subdue the kilesa. It is the Dhamma of sattha, viriya, sati, samadhi, and panya. Sattha is the belief in the fruits that the Lord Buddha had attained, and in the Dhamma he expounded to the world as the Niyanika Dhamma, the outward-going vehicle, going out from samsara, from dukkha. This is sattha, or conviction. If we ourselves would only practice following the Lord's teaching, then for certain we would steadily realize the results in satisfaction and fulfillment. This is sattha. Viriya is diligent effort. Whatever task we do, whether internally or externally, if done with diligent effort, it will always be right and proper. Such work, when supported by diligent effort, will always be well accomplished and pleasing to the eye. Sati is the important factor which oversees each task and prevents any inattentiveness or error. Samadhi is our firm resolution and commitment to the ongoing work until its final completion, without distractions and unsteadiness. This is the samadhi of causal aspect of samadhi. The samadhi of result appears as the stability and firmness of the citta, and the experience of happiness and ease. This arises from the causal aspect of samadhi. That is, firmness in our work, without wavering or vacillating, but being truly committed to that work. The resultant aspect of samadhi is the calmness of the heart, which reaches up to the state of ekaggata, oneness. The Lord said of this state that it had only one aramana, being non-dual. Panya is penetrative discernment. In all circumstances, it is necessary to apply panya, which is the important factor in discerning and observing. The outcome of each task depends on the application of panya, which investigates and analyzes. This is the Dhamma that can steadily lead us away from dukkha, or can complete any work we set out to do. The Lord also termed it the four great ways, itipada, for it is of paramount importance. Chanda, satisfaction. What are we satisfied with? If we are satisfied with the kilesa, then the kilesa will come up. Whatever we delight in, we are inclined to seek for. Whatever we set our heart on will come up. However, the four great ways here doesn't refer to this base and corrupting influence, but to the virtue that can lead to the fulfillment of our aspirations. The Lord called it the great ways, which is the factor that makes possible the realization of our objective. This is not beyond our means. Chanda is satisfaction. Virya is diligent effort. Citta is attentiveness and not straying from the work. Vimamsa is panya. When brought together, they are as one, since they are marked for the same work and bring the same outcome. Indeed, this is the Dhamma that can build complete human beings, that can develop a firm basis in the citta, and can consolidate our efforts into a coherent and substantial undertaking, complete with excellent rules and disciplines, with good traditions and customs. All of this ensures that each one of us who cultivates the various Dhamma do not run contrary to the principle of the Dhamma teaching. Once the heart is attuned to Dhamma in this way, it is secured with the Dhamma protection, Dhamma Rakha. Dhamma is then the guardian of the heart, and the heart will steadily prosper. Those harmful influences will now steadily decline. Regardless of how long the heart might have been down and out, and miserable, it is not completely destroyed and ruined, and is still capable of seeking, thinking, and reasoning. Once cleansed by the various means of exertion, it will become bright, cool, and peaceful, happy and at ease. This is because of the recession of the enemy, due to the effort of purification put forth by those who diligently practice. This is the key, the most important key, that will turn all the things we aspire for to reality and complete fulfillment. It is not the way of merely desiring, of allowing ourselves to be deterred by weakness and discouragement, which prevents us from pursuing and accomplishing our objective. Whatever we do, or however we think, we should never forget about the Lord Buddha, our Sasada, great teacher. Whenever we become weak and discouraged in any kind of work, we must reflect upon the Lord Buddha, who gained enlightenment through exertion, using those Dhamma of Sattva, Virya, Sati, Samadhi, and Panya. How else could he become enlightened, if not by this Dhamma? With what are we going to develop and nourish our heart, so it can excel and be at peace? so that we can at least be considered a follower of a teacher. Is it not by the Dhamma that the Lord had developed and comprehended its true nature, in both aspects of cause and effect? There is really no other path that we can follow. What gave rise to the phrase, Dhammang saranang gacchami, I take refuge in the Dhamma, if not these 5 Dhamma of Sattha, Viriya, Sati, Samadhi, and Panya? It was by no other means that Dhammang saranang gacchami could arise apart from the Lord Buddha, who was imbued with the 5 aspects of Dhamma, namely Sattha, Viriya, Sati, Samadhi, and Panya. The same is true of Sanghang saranang gacchami, I take refuge in the Sangha. None of the Savaka Sangha, regardless of their class and family background, whether they were kings or merchants, rich or poor, or just of the common folk, were weak or easily discouraged. Once they had gone forth in the Buddha Sasana, they were fully equipped with diligent effort, and therefore such diligent effort is an extremely important Dhamma that will steadily raise the heart of a person. In other words, it is these 5 Dhamma of Sattha, Viriya, Sati, Samadhi, and Panya that can uplift the heart, regardless of how low it might have degenerated. Once we have taken these 5 Dhamma as our support, we will undoubtedly ascend steadily and eventually be free from dukkha. Please also note that the 4 great ways are interrelated Dhamma, and are the Dhamma that uplift the heart and prevent it from being oppressed and burdened. They are not like those things that weigh down the heart of the worldling. Some of the Savaka walked Yankama until the soles of their feet blistered. Think of that, until their feet blistered. Is this striving or not? Some didn't even sleep for an entire 3 months period, until their eyes ruptured and they went blind, like the Venerable Chakupala. Did they suffer? Think how hard they strove. As for us, we don't need to strive to the point of ruining our body. If we could only make the kilesa suffer, make them run and hide, this in itself would be quite commendable. Don't let the kilesa swarm all over our ears and eyes, our nose and tongue, our body and heart. Once we are infested with the kilesa, we will never be able to find any substance and Dhamma within our heart. How then are we going to find any peace? Therefore, in order to eradicate the kilesa, which has always been dominant in our heart, we must rely on this Dhamma principle, keeping it close to our heart. Don't cherish anything more than this Dhamma. It is the tool to overcome the kilesa and steadily deliver the heart, which we treasure most highly, to complete freedom. Which is better, the heart that is free, or the heart under subjugation of the kilesa? Which is better, enslaved people without any liberty, or free people? If we are not yet tired of having our heart for so long under the power of the various kilesa, tanha, and asava, then we will always be submissive. But if we become tired, sickened, and weary, and see the bane of these things, then it is possible to struggle with them, using various strategies, culminating in these 5 Dhamma. This is the important tool with which we can entirely eliminate and obliterate all of the kilesa. What sort of place is the battleground of a practitioner? For instance, those who relentlessly walk Jankama and sit in Pavana day and night, what do they take as their battleground and object of investigation? From the principle of Dhamma, the Lord taught the 4 Satya Dhamma, truthful Dhamma. Where are the 4 Satya Dhamma, other than within the body and citta of people? We are also people, so when we walk Jankama or sit in Samadhi Pavana, seeking for truth and Dhamma, where else could we find them, if not in the Satya Dhamma? What is the way of seeking for the Satya Dhamma? We already know dukkha as dukkha, that it arises in the body and citta of people and animals. But the animals do not know the way of remedy. We do. As for dukkha, is it something desirable? When it arises in the body, it's truly undesirable. Even though the body may be normal and healthy, when dukkha arises, there will be uneasiness and anxiety. Our demeanor will be unattractive and even more unsightly once dukkha becomes more severe. Is the heart that is being afflicted with intense dukkha really worth looking at? Every way we conduct ourselves will produce harm. Every way of alleviating the dukkha, with whatever course of action, will really only increase the dukkha, with ourselves totally ignorant of it. Anyone with intense dukkha must ease it out by the various modes of behavior known to us all. For this is considered the way of allaying dukkha, though in truth it is the way of increasing and accumulating more dukkha. It is purely a figment of the imagination to think that we are relieving our dukkha when everyone else is being bothered and hurt by our scolding and tongue lashing, by our vile and offensive behavior that springs from the corruption in our own heart. Such unleashed efforts to allay dukkha only create trouble and scatter filth. We probe into the cause of dukkha by inquiring, how does dukkha arise? This is one aspect of the Satya Dhamma. We already know that it is dukkha. How can we overcome it, if not by correcting at the original source, which is samudaya, the origin of dukkha? What is samudaya? It is principally comprised of gama tanha, bhava tanha, and vibhava tanha. The Lord called them samudaya. The desire for the things we love, and abhorrence and aversion for things we despise, all create dukkha and are entirely the affair of samudaya. Any thought and conceiving that accumulates the kilesa are all instrumental in the accumulation of dukkha, and therefore the Lord called all of them samudaya. They all branch out from the same tree, which is none other than this heart. Where are the true roots of greed, hatred, and delusion, raga, dosa, and moha. They are in the heart. They are all embedded in the heart, and nowhere else. We investigate and probe into our body, then we turn to look into our heart, to see what it is imagining and thinking about. Day and night, it only conceives of dukkha, of trouble for ourselves and others, to the extent where it will not stop. The Lord therefore taught us to have sati panya, investigating and scrutinizing our thoughts and imaginings. The heart is worried about the khandha. Why should it be? Once born, isn't there a cemetery as in the rest of the world? Then why is it so possessive and concerned? What can be achieved? Will our anxiety bring any benefit? Won't it merely turn into yam pichang nalapati tampi dukkang? Unfulfilled desire breeds dukkha in the heart. The Lord said that we must not desire, but investigate according to truth. Once the rupa khandha, the body, is put together, it is destined to break up. Such a formation is destined for dissolution. We irrefutably can see this if we investigate with panya. It is indisputable. And if this is so, what's the use in being possessive? Once comprehended with panya, we must leave it alone, following the truth of the rupa khandha that is about to dissolve. Or if it is still holding together, we must realize that its very existence is solely heading for dissolution. This world is full of cemeteries for every person and animal. Are we so uncertain about these cemeteries that we are sure we wouldn't want to die? If we had investigated following the principle of Dhamma, we would no longer be doubtful of the cemetery, nor would we be doubtful of our own death. Once we no longer doubt our dissolution, we will not be shaken or upset. After seeing it clearly within the heart, we will relinquish it, because death is the law of nature. It cannot be interfered with. We have to let nature take its own course, wherever it may lead us. Earth is earth. Water is water. Air is air. Fire is fire. They are as they are. Let the one who knows be the one who knows. Do not mistake water, fire, and air as self. They are like parasitic vines, sucking and devouring, and entangling our heart with affliction and anxiety. For though they are not ourselves, we take them as ourselves, which causes the dukkha that consumes and devours us. The same with Vedana. We have experienced sukha, happiness, and dukkha from the time of our birth to the present, regardless of whether it was the sukha and dukkha of the body or of the heart. They are all anicca, dukkha, and anatta. They all arise so that they can cease. They come forth so that they can pass away. As long as they are samuti, they cannot remain permanent, stable, and unchanging. Where is the pain? We are quite capable of investigating the Vedana of the body. Panya is quite capable of discerning and penetrating it. But the dukkha of the heart is especially important. When there is bodily dukkha, there also arises dukkha in the heart, due to samudaya. This is entirely due to the kilesa, which fool people and worldlings, making them engrossed in their delusion. Please clearly understand that the investigation of the body is for correcting our delusion of taking the body as self. The investigation of Vedana, Sukha and Dukkha Vedana, is for the purpose of eliminating from the heart the Dukkha Vedana we have taken as self. Let them be as they really are, Vedana as Vedana, our self as our self, which is knowingness. Do not mix them up. This is not possible, since they are intrinsically different. How can they be combined into one? For instance, can two people be combined into one? One person is enough of a burden, but to carry 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people becomes extremely burdensome. One can possibly go on like that. Having shouldered the burden of form, rupa, we also take up the load of vedana, sanya, sankhara, and vijnana, which are oppressive under the weight of upadana, attachment. Consequently, where will the result of this attachment fly back to, if not the heart, which is responsible for it? The heart alone must bear the dukkha, even though it has gained nothing from the attachment. So are we still going to cling to them? Such is the way of investigating dukkha vedana, so as to see it as it truly is. As for sanya, memory, whatever we remember is steadily forgotten. Whenever we like, we can recollect it, recall it anew, and then forget it. We readily forget. We can recollect, but then we also forget. Sanya vatsa vimuhati. The Lord Buddha expounded this. Where can we find any contradiction? Sanya is transient. Memory comes and goes. Sanya anicca. See, the Lord has already told us. Anicca, anicca. The bhikkhus only chant this to the dead. Anicca vata sankhara. Impermanent are all conditioned things. Yet, why do we chant and conceive and imagine ourselves as human beings by taking the 5 khandha as ourselves? They are all anicca. They are aniccaṃ, dukkhaṃ, and anatta. We must investigate using panya, differentiating and analyzing, so as to see it completely in all aspects. We must not be afraid of dying. Death is not found in the citta. Do not conceive of fear to fool the citta, for this is merely lying to ourselves, and vainly brings about dukkha. This is going contrary to Dhamma, which is the truth of the Lord Buddha. Whoever believes in the Lord Buddha must not go contrary to the truth, but must investigate to see according to reality, using the power of panya. One who does this is someone who truly takes up the Buddhang Saranang Gacchami. I take refuge in the Buddha, and does not just mouth the words. He must investigate to see it in his heart, and in the truth that the Lord expounded to all groups of beings. We are also one group of beings among all the other groups. So how can we not comprehend the truth taught by the Lord Buddha, which we all have completely within ourselves, namely the four Satya Dhamma, truthful Dhamma? Sankhara, listen, is conceiving. Is it truthful enough to be trusted when it conceives, imagines, fantasizes, or fabricates? It makes up the various forms from the various things. For instance, the form of a doll, which eventually falls apart. The same with conception, be it about good or bad, or whatever. It only fools ourselves and no one else, because the citta is the chief of fools. It is easily taken in by any deception. That's the way it is. Since it is easily taken in, it is victimized. But if there is some panya there to forestall and carefully screen it, regardless of how many thousand times sankhara might conceive in a second, panya would circumscribe it just as many times. So what then can fool it? It is already obvious that sankhara is sankhara, and that the knowingness, namely the heart, is the heart. So why be deluded by them? Why be startled by shadows? All these sankhara are shadows. It is the same with vijnana, which flicks off and on, whenever there are things coming into contact with the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, or body, and which is being acknowledged by the citta. Then the citta conceives and imagines with sankhara and sanya. So deception and fabrication arise without any substance, only deception. We are constantly falling for our own aramana, mental objects, both day and night. And it is just this delusion that brings about dukkha. This is the consequence of being so deluded. If we do not see the harm here, where else can we see it? In learning and realizing the truth of the Satya Dhamma, if we do not do it here, where will we do it? Probe into it, thoroughly and judiciously. It is not how many times we do it. The important thing is clearly understanding it with panya. Having comprehended this, though the upadana, attachment, is nearly as big as a mountain, it will totally disintegrate. Once pursued by panya, it cannot go anywhere, but right into the big cave, right into the citta. We must hit it with panya. Where is the real substance of this shadowy anicca, dukkha, and anatta? Drive on further. Their real substance is in the citta, where they all gather together. Apart from here, it is just their shadows. Hence the frenzy for rupa, vedana, sanya, sankhara, and vijnana. Hence the delusion for rupa, vedana, sanya, sankhara, and vijnana. Once panya has completely discerned and seen through them, they will run inside, and that is when the citta converges into a singular citta. Then if the citta is not stupid, it will turn and investigate at that point, right at the citta. They will now flee and hide in the citta. So we must turn around and go right into the citta to destroy them there. When they are in there, they are like a bandit who will shoot our heads off from the inside. Wherever he takes up hiding, no matter how valuable the hideout may be it a building or a shop, we must blow it up by throwing in explosives, destroying it all, including the bandit. If it must all be obliterated, let it be so. We are still alive. We can make and build anew, as long as we don't die with it. Similarly, with this situation, we must hit hard, and then the subtle kilesa will all gather in the citta. We must now investigate, seeing it all as a heap of anicca, dukkha, and anatta, like everything else, because these kilesa are the essence of samuti. We must cut them down and blast them, and totally obliterate them from the citta. Once they have been crushed and dispersed, we will see if the citta has also been annihilated. But it hasn't, because the citta has no symmetry. The citta by its very nature is amatang, undying, even when it still has kilesa. Once all the kilesa are completely destroyed, the Lord said that one has escaped danger. The fire of raga, dosa, and moha, greed, hatred, and delusion, is extinguished once the extract of the Amata Dhamma, Immortal Dhamma, is poured on it. The kilesa are totally eliminated. What remains is the state of purity. And when the citta is perfectly pure, that's where the perfect happiness is. That's where all the work comes to an end. The Lord said, Usitang brahmachariyang katang karaniyang na parang itattayati pajanati. Done is the task. Lived out is the holy life. There is no further work to be done. This is because one has attained to perfect wisdom. This then is the end of dukkha. This is where it comes to an end. The ultimate Dhamma is found right here, in this purified heart. The Buddhaṃ, Dhammaṃ, and Sanghaṃ Saranang Gacchāmi, to which we call and humbly turn our hearts, all converge into this natural state of purity. This state and the recollection of the Lord Buddha become one and the same. In their true natural state, Buddho, Dhammo, and Sangho are just this absolute purity. The issue of the time and place of the Lord Buddha's parinibbana, final passing away, is entirely settled, because the true natural state of Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha now exist in one's heart. This is the heart's priceless treasure. One's state is identical with the other. The question is settled. Where did the Lord Buddha go when he passed away? His physical body merely disintegrated, following its natural course, the same as do any other dhatu khanda, the element aggregate, the body. In various places, known by various conventional names. But the purified nature, the complete Buddha, was not annihilated. It did not die. It has transcended space and time. Such is the true Buddha. This is what we refer to, Buddhaṃ, Dhammam, and Sanghaṃ Saranang Gacchami. How can this nature be annihilated? We must see it clearly within our heart, and use that to verify this nature, once we have attained to a state of absolute purity, for this will be the complete proof. If this state does not cease, then in view of its nature, that one will be likewise. If this state does not cease, how could that state cease? They are one and the same Dhamma. Such is the way with all the Arahant Savaka, enlightened disciples. Having attained to this level of Dhamma, wherever they are, they will be with Dhamma. They will be with Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, and in audience with the Lord Buddha all the time. Agaligo, not depending on time. They will be unshakable, because the elixir of the Amata Immortal Dhamma has totally quenched the fire of raga tanha, sensual desire, within the heart, leaving no residue. Desana vupasamo sukho, the quelling and cessation of all sankhara is supreme happiness. Once the sankhara Dhamma within the heart, the sankhara which is samudaya, the cause of dukkha, is entirely brought to an end, one arrives at the supreme happiness. Where is this supreme happiness? Both the means and ends, the good and bad, are within every one of us, who know and are aware. The nature that knows is uniquely suited to all levels of Dhamma, including the Visuddhi Dhamma, which is the state of purity. There is nothing more suitable apart from this knowingness. Please purify this nature that knows, gradually ridding it all of the oppressive influences. Then it won't be necessary